You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sami Mulhern. Each month, we dive deep into a digital marketing or fundraising strategy that you can implement in your organization. Each week, you'll hear from guest experts, nonprofits, and myself on best practices, tips, and resources to help you raise more money online and reach your organizational goals. Hey friends, I have Patrick Kirby on the podcast today for a bonus episode. Patrick, I think you might have the record for the most appearances on the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast, so congratulations.
I feel like the Alec Baldwin of your guest hosting. This is great. I also need a jacket. Is there like a 5-timers club? Did I get there at this point?
I'm not that cool. I'll send you a cup of coffee or something. Not that you need.
Sounds good. I'm done. That sounds
coffee.
Great. Welcome to. It's great to be back. As always, per usual, I enjoy all the things we chat about.
Yes, we have great conversations. But if people don't know you, because this is a bonus episode, this is not a normal episode, because we just felt like this topic was too important for us to wait until June. If you follow this podcast at all, you know that I'm a big fan of batching. And so we're recording this in February. If I launched it, we wouldn't be launching this until June. So we wanted to get this out to you because we think this topic is super important. But if for some reason, Patrick, people don't know who you are, could you give them kind of the quick rundown of Patrick Kirby and Do Good Better?
Yes. So I am Patrick Kirby. I'm the founder of Do Good Better. We're a consulting firm out of Fargo, North Dakota that helps nonprofits suck less at fundraising. And I say that with love and adoration because we are all accidental fundraisers. We just do this because we fell into it. There's no degree in annual giving or event planning. It just doesn't exist. But we do it because we love the cause, we love the mission. And then somebody around the time where you got really fun at your job said, we should probably raise more money. And you're probably a do-gooder. And you raised your hand, and you said, I can do that. And then you go, oh, crap, I don't know how to do that, and which is where we all start doing fundraising. So I help them sort of grab best practices, how to keep sane, how to do the best you can with what you have. And it's really kind of a joy in my life. I've been doing this for 20 odd years. It's the best in the entire world. And so I'm kind of borderline obsessed with the nonprofit community. That's me.
Yeah. I love it. And we have been partnering and working in so many different ways together, I think since 2020, which is kind of crazy. We should throw a 5-year anniversary party.
It's coming up hot, which is funny. We were uploading some videos to something, and I was like, this was in 2022? It blew my mind. I didn't know that time is a construct I don't understand anymore. I realized that. But that was a shocking moment. So yes, we've been working together for a very long time, and I find joy in what you do. And again, I learn, I've said this a lot, every day I chat with you, I learn something brand new about your world, and makes me a smarter human being. So I'm excited to chat.
Same. Yeah, okay, and so this leads really well into, we both kind of were working in nonprofit in various capacities, and both decided to kind of step into our own consulting so that we could serve more organizations versus working for just one. And we both purposefully have a small team so that we can be more engaged in the clients that we're working with. Neither one of us has a huge agency model. And so it can be lonely. Mm-hmm. It can be difficult to kind of make decisions. It can be hard because you only know what you know. And I know when I first started my company in 2017, I thoughtfully sought out masterminds and group coaching programs where I could find community, and have since also now have people like you and other consultants that I can call up and be like, hey, I've got this crazy idea, or I'm thinking about doing this thing, or what are you seeing out in the world? So that community has become really important to me. And so I'm curious from your perspective, what did that look like for you when you went out on your own and started your own company? And how did you kind of utilize community around you, other consultants, to kind of help you become what you are now and continue to grow?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So a little background, my dad started his own business when I was in high school. So I watched, this, idol of mine just quit his job randomly and start his own business and then sleep on the couch for 6 months because, that's how it works when you don't really ask for permission. You just kind of do. And so I watched how this worked, and I watched very closely who he kept in close company. So before I took a leap, I did a ton of work just asking people what it was like, the entrepreneurial experience, and if this was a good idea, and getting their getting their feedback. I'm like, am I dumb for doing this? And they're all like, yeah, probably. I go, but is this a good idea? And they're like, yeah, probably. So I had a really good understanding and expectation about how lonely it was going to be, how hard you're going to work, how chaotic your life is going to feel. But I had a group of people that told me this, who also said, call me when it gets too much. So it was a really kind of nice balance. They warned me. I didn't listen anyway. And then I would call them going, it's bad. I feel overstressed. And like, yeah, that's part of the bit. And here's how I've walked through it as well. So it was absolutely necessary. I would not have survived the first, I would say, 9 months, let alone the first 7.5 years of this, without a really supportive community. And then on top of that, not only, again, this is just local entrepreneurs and local folks that I knew owned businesses. And then when you reach out to other people who own consulting firms, who are maybe like that, not doing the same thing, but who have been doing it for a while, I found that everyone loves to talk about it because nobody asks them about their little journey. And everyone wants to give you tips on what to avoid because they see it as their own now responsibility to kind of mother you or like before you jump out of a nest, like, don't do that. I wouldn't do this. And here's how I handled it. Will give you advice ad nauseum. And it's wonderful. So I was really nervous about reaching out to a handful of people, especially who had bigger firms and who were larger than life personalities, influencers, if you will. And every one of them picked up the phone and when I called and they said, yeah, I'd love to, here's 20, 30 minutes of my time. Yep. I'd love to walk you through some of the chaos. And so a long-winded answer of saying absolutely necessary to have a group of human beings that you can lean on for that, for sure.
Well, and I agree with you. The nonprofit consulting world is one of the most warm, welcoming, collaborative, like I'll share with you anything that I can because we're all coming from a place of service. And so it's like, I just want more people that are out there serving people, the better. Yeah. And also, like, I get asked that a lot because I have people on my podcast that do what I do. And sometimes people are like, why would you have somebody on your podcast that builds websites? You build websites. Well, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, or I can still have them on my podcast and I learn something from them, or they learn something from me. It's just a way of kind of sharing. It's not going to financially impact my business.
No.
And so I want to kind of lead that into, it's interesting because in the nonprofit fundraising world, I don't know if you experienced this, it feels like the collaboration between development directors, between executive directors to learn from each other and help each other be better and know kind of the trends and the things that are happening. Like, it's not the same. There's like this whole scarcity complex that happens with nonprofit leadership, especially in smaller communities. Is that something you see, and why is that dangerous to the industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's weird. I still think, no matter how much we try to fight against it, is this idea of if I introduce anybody else to somebody in my network and I'm a fundraiser, I'm terrified that they will go to another organization because they'll like them better than me. Mm-hmm. It's never happened. And if it does, it means they were probably better aligned anyway, which is your job as a fundraiser, right? But it never happens that way. Here's what I would say. Your job is to try to figure out how your donors can best feel as if they're doing a great work or a great service to their community so they can feel good about their donations. And whether that starts with your organization or not, that's half the mental battle you have to hurdle. And I think the more that you connect donors with, like if you had a donor that was giving kind of a moderate amount but had a lot of money, but they just weren't into you, but they're doing it because, somebody asked them back in the day, or maybe they stumbled into money, but this person would be a better fit at another organization. They won't forget the fact that you matched them with someone better. They're not going to stop giving to you because they found another organization that was just great. You just did a service to the general community that will come back tenfold because they'll keep talking about you about how you were the connector, how about you were the person that was great. So, but I think we have this big fear that if we share names, not names of like how much they gave or whatever, I'm not talking about that, but shared resources or shared things, other people will find other organizations more attractive than our own, which is not the case. People give to you because they love you. They've bought in. They know you're making a difference. And if you're doing your due diligence about communicating about your impact and whatever this is, they will stay with you thick and thin. And they'll tell you whether they like it or not, or they're going to move on. But if you're communicative with them and you are always reaching out just to give them updates and saying hi and keeping a personal relationship with them, they're not going anywhere. But we have always been terrified of that fact. And I think it's a detriment to the nonprofit industry because there's a lot of good donors who would make better fits at other organizations to lift up all the community giving at once. But they don't know about it because you're gatekeeping. Stop gatekeeping fun people, right? Yeah.
Okay, but then let's also talk about the burnout piece because we're all on these deadlines to raise more money, get more money, and even when you get the money, you still need to get more money. It doesn't matter the size of your organization. And, we talked earlier about it being lonely as consultants and okay, well, we need people around us. Right. Same for fundraisers. They need people around them also to be like, yeah, it sucks right now for all of us. Or we're actually doing really well. Here's some things that have worked. Maybe try tweaking it if it's not working for you. Just to know that you're not alone on this island. And so I know that's a passion for you to bring nonprofits together in community to learn, why is that something that's so important to you, to bring to the space that doesn't really exist in a lot of places?
Yeah. So when I was at a big kid job I had before I was a consultant, right? So I worked at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we had a gala that we would put on every year. And one of the years we had a big fundraising increase goal, right? We wanted to increase by 25%, which is an inordinate amount of money because we were making $500,000, $600,000 a year at that gala. But we had a big push from nationals because there was a drug on the horizon that we thought we could fund. And there was a big push for every organization or every group to make as much money as possible. So long story short, we doubled revenue. We made $1.2 million. We netted $1 million. And it was a leap of that year. And during our rebrief meeting, my boss at the time was mad that she didn't get the credit that she deserved, that she thought she deserved for getting that far. Because the committee went to bat. Everyone was giving praise to everybody. And there was just a little butthurt thing in the back of her brain. So we were doing a recap that Monday morning. We're all punchy from getting no sleep for 3 straight days. And we're recapping about how amazing it was. And this person was that person had 4 martinis. And that person, I think, went to the bathroom at the valet thing. It was just this crazy experience. And she sat with her arms folded at the end of the table. And every time we'd come up with what we did well, we were just going through the big wins, she would just say, what else? What else? What else? There was never an embracing or a moment of joy. And so I've constantly reminded myself of that story over and over and over again when you have somebody who is a successful fundraiser and that's always got to push north. And there's this moment where you have to have this balance of praise and adulation, but you always want to keep pushing further. You do not want to just settle on good, right? Tim, the whole good to great bit. There's always something you can push north. And I've been trying to figure out how to bring that to the nonprofit world without sounding demeaning or dismissive of the success that people have had. And I've sort of come up with Disney never stopped at Steamboat Willie, right? So Walt Disney makes Steamboat Willie, right? It revolutionizes the way that we see animation. It's never been done before. It's this thing that nobody's experienced. He could have damn well stopped at Steamboat Willie. But we've never gotten Mulan, which still has the best song, Be a Man. This is the best song ever. Right? So we would have never gotten, right? We have never gotten Hercules and never gotten The Little Mermaid if you had stopped at Steamboat Willie. So I always kind of try to relay the message of your unbelievable unlocking of unlimited funding and people who want to join you is only going to happen if we push that passion level past our comfort level of being like, I got to the top. Well, there's always another mountain to climb. This goes back to our ridiculous entrepreneurial brain that got us started in the first place. Like, we could do more and really good things. It's an insane person concept. But when you are doing good for the community, you're making an impact, you're making difference, always striving for something more is sort of something that I'm hell-bent on making sure everybody knows about. And then trying to find ways to inspire them to push themselves a little bit further. Because I don't want you leaving money on the table. I don't want you leaving donors who might be a really good fit for you on the sidelines when they could help you get to that next level as well.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't have Steamboat Willie on your bingo card on mentioning today.
Not have Steamboat Willie on my bingo card, but I love it. I think what's so inspiring about some of the things that you've created is that, like, the conversations that happen, and we're going to talk more specifically about kind of Do Good University and how we got here. But I think just in the conversations that happen live in your community is just that. It's, hi, I'm coming with these ideas. I'm coming with these questions. I'm coming with, I don't know how to grow my event to grow by 25%. This is what we've been doing. And there's 3 other people in the wings that are like, oh, well, we did this, this, and this. I never thought about that. Because it's the collective, we come with our expertise, but everybody else there is also in the weeds doing things. And that collective of ideas and collaboration, like, that's where the magic happens. And crazy ideas come out that people would have never thought of. And I think it's just a beautiful thing.
Well, and again, your event, you come up with I love your idea of, like, the event thing, right? So I don't know what to do with my event. I got to raise some whatever. What has everybody else done? The people at your event are not going to the other event, and they're not going to necessarily know each other. So you can do and rip off and duplicate. Also, some of the things that they're doing, you have to do differently, even though it's the same concept, right? So if you're going to do a paddle raise, right, or you're going to do a heads or tails, your heads or tails are going to be completely different than the heads and tails game at another event. Your live auction items are going to have a great deal of difference between events. They're not going to have the same people bidding on them. They're not going to have the same excitement. Your homemade apple pie from grandma down the road event is going to raise $10,000, and it might do $40 on a silent auction item at a similar event across town. Because you don't have the same people. But to know that you have different options to that's why this community is so amazing, is that you can go, God, I never thought of that. And now I can try it at no risk or no worry that I'm going to rip off somebody else, because it's a totally different flair. And that's the difference. It goes back to your previous question, which is like, why don't we talk about this more often? Nobody's going to do the same thing that you're doing at all. Because it won't work. Well,
okay, so let's kind of back up here for a second. So Patrick and I, like we mentioned, have started working together years ago. And a couple years ago, we started a program called Nonprofit Bootcamp. And it was an on-demand training program, guest experts, live Q&As. And it was great. And at the same time, Patrick launched his Do Good University, which is specific to small to medium-sized nonprofits, similar, a lot of on-demand resources, and also weekly Ask Me Anything, live Q&As, whatever you want to call it. So this year in 2025, we decided to bring them together and merge them into one massive program and merge all of the on-demand training into one massive program, and just kind of combine our efforts and be able to better serve nonprofits in a way that makes sense for them. And so one of the things that I love most about the program, like we've alluded to, is the weekly live conversations. And so I think that's what makes it unique. We talk a lot, or you talk a lot about, like, you can go to Google and, like, search for stuff and spend hours going down the rabbit hole of, like, is this the right training for me? Or you can go to whatever agency of your choice and watch their trainings and watch hours of things, but not really know if it's the right fit for you. So I love this combination that's inside Do Good University, and I'd love for you to just kind of set the stage for, what does an AMA look like? What can people expect to experience when they show up for one of those calls?
Well, I'll start with this, is that most of us at at any point in time as a fundraiser, marketer, or someone who works in the nonprofit industry has something that they want to accomplish, but there's one issue or one roadblock that if they can't solve that, none of this works, right? I can't raise money, or I can't have this committee meeting work because this one committee member is a pain in my rear end. I can't do this fundraiser because I can't get the concept right. Therefore, I can't reach out to sponsors because my packet doesn't have this in it, and I can't wrap my brain around how to do this. I don't know how to have a conversation with a donor because I'm roadblocked with this idea of what to ask for. Like, we all have these roadblocks. Once gotten rid of, you can just run. So a lot of the things that you said, like if you can Google these, but they're so certain, they're so specific to a situation that requires a person who's experienced it, a group of people who've also had perspective on it, that get together and go, well, let's go solve that one thing for you, the seemingly unsolvable fundraising issue that you have, so that you can run. And that's really what this AMA looks like. So we gather, it's whether it's a dozen people or 25 people or however many that show up, is that everybody goes around and asks, like, hey, this is the one thing I gotta fix today, or this is the one question I have. Lay out the question, I give an answer, you give an answer, anybody else can give perspective, and we move on to the next one. So that you can leave these conversations once a week with just figuring out the biggest issue that you have, the biggest roadblock that you have. It's done, and now you have no excuses but to raise billions of dollars, which is really, really fun. And it's super unique because it's very personalized, super personable. Everyone gets their an opinion or a thought out, and that I've never seen this done in any other way on a regular basis in any other program that I have ever come in contact with ever. And it was something that you and I just wanted to make sure that we did on a regular basis. But again, we had two separate things that we were doing and never had the time to combine our brains, because usually somebody, and this is the best part about this, where someone will have a question about a fundraising item and I'll give them a practical tip on like a fundraising side, and you'll sweep in right and go, and to give you extra context, here's what you should do from a digital fundraising side too. And it matches perfectly. So they get like a 2-for-1 bonus on top of that. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think that's why we work so well together, because the way that we serve our clients is so in alignment. The way that we feel like our clients should serve their donors is so in alignment. And so it really works well. But I want to mention, like, the magical thing for me about them is two things. One is the unicorn that is Leah is there, who's on the Do Good team, Do Good Better team. She is taking notes and she is following up, and she is literally, because there's a whole lot of on-demand training inside the library. And we'll talk a little bit about the different categories that are in there here in a second. Yeah. But she's taking notes, and as we're talking about the pain points, the roadblocks, she's taking notes and being like, yep, we've got this training, and she'll send you those trainings right afterwards. So you're not digging through the library of stuff to be like, okay, now I got to watch these 5 hours of training. You're going specifically to the training that you need to solve the problem, to get more information, as opposed to having to spend all that time Googling. So that's the first. Yeah. The second is that those that show up regularly get so much bang for their buck because we know who they are. We know the progression of what they're working on. So it's not just coming in cold and saying, well, I need to raise more money at my event. It's like, okay, last week we talked about my event and how I needed to create my sponsor packets. Now I've got some people and I've got some questions about the experience. And so you get to work through that progression because we know who you are, because we get to talk to you on a weekly basis. So you're not just entering into a Q&A type platform where nobody understands your backstory or the context around who you are.
Yeah. And it that's what I love most about this too. It's almost like a mini coaching experience that I would have with larger clients, where I'm meeting with them weekly and working through other things, and you're doing it in small chunks. And I like the small chunks idea too, because it's not overwhelming, right? You're not asking like, how can I get a library of these questions answered? That's not what this is for. That's what the rest of the community is, the message boards, all that good stuff. And then Leah's unbelievable, uncanny ability to be immediately, here's the stuff that you need to learn, which is great. And I love that Do Good University is not linear, in the sense that you have to like take 101 to 201. It's, I have a problem. There's a training for that. There's a downloadable for that. There's a template for that. and you just have it. And again,
Yeah.
you could
Well-
Google your way out of this. You really could, but it would take you
Yeah.
so much more time, and you don't have a personalized response to the thing that you had a question on in the first place.
For sure. So to
Yep.
that end, could you maybe share some of the key categories and trainings that are in the back end of Do Good University?
Yeah. Fundraising, big one. Board development, big one. We launched just a couple of months ago, grant writing course. And so what I love most about this, by the way, is that the entire course trains you to get the information that you need for every grant that you'll ever be able or want to write for. It trains you on how to collect it, how to write it, etc. At the end of the course, you have an opportunity to put all the information in an actual form, and then you get to send it to us, and we'll grade you on how ready you are for a grant ask. And I'll be honest, I've never seen that. That's one of those little pipe dreams that we came up with, and we're like, well, this is going to be a thing that we do, and it's brilliant. You get to know everything from your vision statement that differs from your mission statement to your particular ask, and making sure you've got all your documents in a row, formulates it into a giant folder so that you are at the ready anytime to do that. There's marketing, there's inclusion pieces, there is webinars that we've had prior to. So all the former webinars that we've had with all the guest expert trainings that we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, which are they got to be over 100 at this point. Events that we've recorded, right? So we did a do-gooders conference for 3 straight years. We've got all the recordings of all the big major players who were speakers at our event from 2001 on. It's a remarkable amount of information. And again, at any point in time, that probably feels overwhelming, but they're all done to figure out what's your biggest pain point, how to get to it as quickly as possible, and find the material that you need.
Yeah, and you can show up live and ask where you need to go, and you can go to the community message board and pop a question in and just say, hey, I need help with this at any time. Where should I go? And I should mention that a couple things, and I'm going to say one thing here publicly that I have not said out loud to anybody yet, so you heard it here first, but I need accountability just like we all do. But we do have a new website strategy course that is coming to Do Good University that walks through everything from how, what you need to do before you build a website, what you need to have pulled together. And I believe you also have a capital campaign workbook that's in the works also.
Yep. It's coming
for
there
people that
too.
are working
Mm-hmm.
So lots of good things coming.
Yeah, and there's so much more that we're going to be doing. I'll break news. I wrote a book. I wrote another book, and so I'm building.
Well, I was going to get there eventually, but spoiler. Okay, you can go ahead and go there now.
Okay. So, but we're building a course that goes along with it too. So, as part of this, you get to play along with each chapter is going to have a different course, and you get to read along with the book and learn to that. Mm-hmm. It's also going to have a workbook and all the other accoutrements that come with it too. So there's just so much brand new information that's coming down the line, and brand new up-to-date courses that we have that'll address pieces. And again, the best part about going live, and the best part about doing quarterly updates and quarterly things that we're going to be rolling out as well, is to keep you update to what's going on now, right? Now. So you don't have to look back because again, there's great historical context, best practices pieces that we've got up there. We always refresh what's not needed anymore and what's absolutely desperately needed. But we're always keeping our eyes out for what the next trend is, what the next piece of advice is, and then creating in real time. And we're very communicative to the members. What do you need? What is of interest to you? And then we're creating it in real time, way quicker than anybody else because we're our own bosses and we can do what we want. We don't have to go to a board of directors or this group of sponsors. We're doing it ourselves. So we can be so responsive to the needs of the group as a whole or individuals who bring up actual topics of conversation.
100%. And I know this is a much harder pitch for a specific product than we typically do on this podcast, but I really think, and Patrick does as well, that the community, especially right now with the rapidness with how things are changing, with the dynamics that are surrounding us as a country, regardless of your political feelings, it's disruptive in our jobs as we're trying to kind of do the best work that we can in our communities. And so, we really just feel like now is really important for fundraising professionals, for executive directors to come together in community and support each other so that we can not feel alone and do the work that we're doing. And so Patrick and I have a code for you. So you can go to thefirstclick.net/DGU, the letter U, and get your first 2 weeks free. So if you want to come in and just see what's in the library, if you want to come in and join a couple Ask Me Anythings, we have changed up the dates and times. So they're different every week. So we can try to hit more people where they have flexibility in their schedule. But we'd love to see you in there to just check it out and try it out and see how it can support you and your organization. Patrick, is your book going to be available in the back end of Do Good University?
Yes, it will be available in March. So look for that very soon. You'll get previews though, because again, I do a lot of test work with our members. You get to hear a lot of things that I don't talk about live on stage or in any webinars before anybody else. I get to test it on you to make sure that it works. And then you can tell me if I'm crazy or not, or you're like, oh, that's a really good idea. And I heard it before anybody else. Perfect. So you'll see a lot of things before the general public does, which is pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, I love it. Anything else that you want to add about your favorite parts of Do Good University, or just kind of the power of being in community with other professionals as we kind of wrap this up?
I know the feeling after having, again, I'm a boots on the ground for 20 years fundraiser and in the nonprofit realm. And so I realize how chaotic it is. And I think that's what makes it different too. It's not as if we are just in a ivory tower somewhere, giving you oh, I think you should probably do this instead. That's not what we're doing. We're practical every day. Our hands are dirty with fundraising, and we see the reality about how hard this is and how lonely it is and how frustrating it is that you don't have an answer right away, which is what we built this thing for in the first place. Again, we think that if you are empowered with an answer that's going to help you move the needle forward, everything else makes your whole life a lot easier. And knowing that you have a community to make an answer happen, knowing that you don't have to Google for it, knowing that you're a post away from getting an answer, knowing that you've got access to all this kind of cool stuff on a regular basis, it's kind of a nice, I can take a deep breath because I know I'm going to be able to figure out what I need to figure out in a timely fashion. And that, I think, is the big relief about Do Good University. It's the really big relief knowing that you've got myself and Sami at your back. And the ever all important, powerful Leah, who helps out as well. And then again, hundreds of other human beings who want to see you succeed too. That's the best part. You've got all these folks who want to just make you a better fundraiser, better marketer, better leader, better board member, whatever that is, at your back. So come on, join us. It's fun. It's super fun. Come in with a question and you'll get it answered. And then you're like, how did I live without this? And you're like, you did, but now you don't have to, and you can stay with us forever. Yeah.
Well, and I want to say that it's also super affordable. I don't want to, we are big on transparency, and I would say that I don't want you to go to the page and be like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do this because it's probably hundreds of dollars a month. As it stands right now, it's $50 a month for you to participate and get access to all of this. So it's very affordable. I would definitely recommend grabbing that 2-week trial, seeing what's all in there, and then knowing that it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to stay in and get all of this value. It's kind of ridiculous how much is in there for what you pay for it. So again, we will have the show notes because I know this is a weird episode because it's a bonus episode. So go to thefirstclick.net/DGU. You'll see this video, you'll see the audio recording of this, you'll see some resources that we already talked about, and there will be a link there to go and get your 2-week free trial. So we definitely want to check that out. Patrick, thank you for taking time to be here with me today and for inviting me in to join you with your amazing community because it's been so much fun.
It's been a blast, and it's an extra bit of brain power, most often smarter brain power that you bring to the table. And it's my favorite part is that no matter what the question is, we've got somebody who can give an answer to it. And that's what makes me super stoked about it. So thank you for listening. Thanks for inviting me on your podcast once again. And looking forward for everybody to join us. It's going to be fun. Promise.
It's going to be fun. Yep. So thefirstclick.net/DGU, and we will see you next week in our regularly scheduled podcast episodes.
Hooray!